You have been here now for quite a few days, and it's a big mission that President Zelensky will put on your shoulders, essentially, to talk to your funding allies, to the countries that have said and manifested support for Ukraine, that are obviously vital for your country too. What did you pick up in your conversations from them?
Thank you very much. It's an important time for us to safeguard that our partners with us. They are ready to support Ukraine, and they still keep waiting until we will prevail in this war. And they can wait until we will win this war. So it's a very good messages which I have received from our partners, from both sides, from EU, from the United States. It doesn't matter. They keep waiting until we will win.
And that's a key point, especially for your country. And obviously, we were also in Ukraine, and there has been this idea of you need to keep your partners engaged the whole time. Did you pick up, however, any signs of fatigue? Obviously, that's a big worry for Ukraine. Was there any questions, anything that you thought could come up? Did it manifest in anywhere? Actually, not at all.
I haven't seen even a hint of fatigue.
Not a hint.
Not a hint. Because I can remember even last year when I approached my partners, my ministry's friends, asked them to support us. It was a little bit different. Now they are fully aware that it's like not just a sprint, it's a long marathon, and they need to be ready to support Ukraine as long as needed. No fatigue. I feel myself very good to such a level of conversation.
So you go back to Kyiv on a happy note from your perspective. And obviously, being a finance minister is never easy, but you have an extra difficult job because, well, you manage an economy, but also a country that is at war, and you need funding also for your military and to keep it going in very exceptional circumstances. How do you see the macro picture for Ukraine? You had a big hit, obviously, to growth last year, a big contraction because of the war. But how do you see things in this year with the uncertainty that obviously remains?
I have a very good presentation and round table which we gather all ministries of finance in the world and describes them our existing situation. I compare March 2022 with March 2023. Situation is far different. Our revenues are far greater than it was beginning of the war.
The capital outflows stopped.
Capital outflows stops. Our bank system is quite stable. Our currency exchange rate is stable. We make possible to decrease the level of inflation from 26.6 to 21.3. IMF program protected us from future uncertainty. Can I tell you so? Over
the funding and whether you'd be able to service those.
And partners committed for a longer perspective. Now I am happy to have a discussion on reconstruction, on rapid development needs and something like that, some stuff that it wasn't natural for me to discuss last year. Now we are discussing how to attract this 14 billion for rapid and damaged needs. And I have a hope that we will find enough attention in our partners' eyes to look at this perspective.
And sir, obviously you talk about the reconstruction, and this we hear all the time from Ukrainian officials. I'm usually based in Brussels. Obviously, you're also applying for the membership of the European Union, so this is a conversation that comes up all the time. But in the most respectful way that I can ask you this question, some do say this is still a country that is at war. To talk about the reconstruction, it's not very realistic. What would you respond?
My response is very simple. I am in Kyiv, my family is with me, my kids go to school, everything is quite uncertain, but it's still stable. They can open business in Ukraine. Of course, they would ask to have some war insurance practice, something like that. They would like even to support from their governments. We are ready to discuss it. We are ready to support business which would like to invest in Ukraine. It's our key and natural interest to attract business attention towards Ukraine right now, not waiting until war ends.
And you say it's right now, and of course, you say that the issues of visibility about the funding, that's been clear too. But the one thing that's also clear, and I wonder on a personal note, how do you read this and what does it make you feel when you're at the IMF and once again we see it's impossible to get consensus on the condemnation of the war? We saw it happen at the G20, we saw it happen in the IMF, and we see that Russian representatives continue to block the language around it. They don't want to call this a war, and it's blocking final statements. Are you disappointed, angry?
We are not angry anymore. We are trying to win this war. We are fighting as vigorous as we can, because anger is not something we would like to describe our existing feelings. We want to be independent state. That's why, of course, it's a pity that some countries try to use this like an opportunity for them, try to...
Like which countries?
I don't want to mention this country, sorry, but because I prefer to stick to my responsibility. But again, we would like them to realize themselves in our position and looking for their perspective, because traditionally this kind of colonial war is not something unusual in the world. That's why it's typical colonial war with bigger country try to absorb, try to cannibalize smaller country.
And I don't want to obviously put words in your mouth, but President Zelensky, it's not a secret, has said that the Chinese president should perhaps call or go to Ukraine and see it for themselves, that Hungary and Viktor Orban perhaps should pay a visit to Ukraine to see what a real war looks like. Obviously, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but obviously the conversation about the role that China should play into this is very active. I know you stick to the finance. I'm not sure if you have a comment on China, but are you still hoping that you're going to see a diplomatic effort also from countries that may be able to help? And then obviously the world is waiting for this counteroffensive. It's not your issue, and this is very secret also within Ukraine, but are you hopeful that this is going to happen?
I have hope that general wisdom of big countries will prevail and they will not move on a different direction.
And with the counteroffensive, I know the timing of it is very delicate for you, but do you still believe this victory will come, that Ukraine can achieve this?
It's not just believe, we prepare this victory. We try to do as hard as we can. We try to close our victory as soon as rather than later. For us, it's like natural interest. It's not something we just wait until something happens. We prepare and we try to get enough ammunition, try to get enough support to start this counteroffensive. Because for us, it's like natural. We want to liberate every meter, every inch of our land.
And just very briefly, if you were to bump into your Russian counterpart, is there something that you would tell him, just very briefly? Or are you not even interested in talking to Russia anymore?
I haven't interest in anymore to speak with Russian.